Hi, I'm Mayor Jay Tibshraeny, and welcome to this edition of Chandler Inside and Out. Today it's my honor to have in studio Ron Wolfley, the color analyst for the Arizona Cardinals radio broadcast, and also co-host of the Doug and Wolf Show, the morning show.
Yes.
You're on 98.7 FM, 6 to 10 a.m. in the morning?
Ding, you got that right, Mayor.
Thanks for coming out to Chandler
Yeah,
today.
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
This is great. So we're going to just talk a little bit about you, then talk about the Cardinals, but we're going to talk about your career first before we get into maybe all that other stuff.
Okay.
So I thought I would start out with, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Orchard Park, New York, and Orchard Park, New York is a suburb of Buffalo, New York. It's probably about 10 miles southeast of Buffalo, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And Orchard Park, New York is built on a hill, Mayor. And the higher up the hill you go, the more money you have, right? And I used to tell people, and I tell kids this all the time, I live below sea level because my dad was a truck driver in this very affluent town, had a bunch of doctors and lawyers, right? And my dad was a truck driver. We literally lived on the wrong side of the tracks, or the hill in this case. But I loved it. It was a great place to grow up.
And that's where you started your playing football. You found interest in football. Any other sports besides football?
Oh, yeah. I played basketball all through high school. I played baseball all through high school. Actually was okay at baseball. Three-time All-State catcher, as a matter of fact. And, yeah, but football, it was my love.
Yeah.
And my passion. And my older brother, Craig, he's 5 years older than I am. He actually got a scholarship to go to Syracuse University for playing football. And I'll never forget that day, Mayor, because it just opened up this whole new world for me. I was like, wait a minute, somebody's actually going to pay you. Somebody's going to pay you and pay for your tuition to go to school because you can play football.
Yeah.
And as a kid that, once again, grew up poor,
wow,
that was a huge moment.
The bell went off and you said, that's what I want to do. I want to get a scholarship.
That's what I want. Exactly right. And fortunately, God blessed me with the ability to go to West Virginia University.
You went on a scholarship.
Went on a scholarship, full ride. And my younger brother, Dale, all three of us boys, he followed me to West Virginia on a full ride as well. So here you got sons of a truck driver who would never be able to send his kids to university, to school. And he had all three of his boys go because of that. Yeah.
That's something.
That was a big deal in my family.
So you're a big hockey fan, a big Bills fan.
Love hockey. The toughest athlete on the face of the planet, hockey players. Grew up a Bills fan, of course, and the Sabres. That's all I wanted to play. Imagine this. As much as I loved hockey, I could not skate because I had weak ankles. I kid you not, I was Bambi on ice. And it was like, no, I couldn't do it. So I played a lot of street hockey.
Yeah. That's interesting too, hockey, because really what that is, that's football players on skates. They're big.
Yeah, it is. You know what's interesting about it, Mayor? I would say this. In today's NHL, it's still a prerequisite where you have to be a tough individual. Mm-hmm. You have to be tough if you want to play the game of hockey. In the NFL, I really don't think it's a prerequisite anymore. It used to be.
Right.
If you want to play football, you better be tough. Remember, toughness is within.
Right.
It's the ability to withstand a lot of physical punishment and a lot of emotional and mental punishment as well. And it's no longer the case like that in the NFL. You can actually not be that tough of a guy and still play the game.
That's interesting. Rules have changed too, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Exactly, yeah, and they needed to.
So at West Virginia, who was your head coach?
Don Nalen.
Oh,
yeah. Don Nalen was the head coach there and had so much to do with my development growing up as a young man. My dad got sick when I was 14 years old with leukemia, and he eventually passed 5 years later when I was 19. And I was at West Virginia University. And Don Nalen, he became my father.
Yeah.
And even to this day, Mayor, if I ever saw Don again, and I haven't seen him in probably 10, 15 years, but if I were to go back, I guarantee you, I'd start crying. Because that guy meant so much to me and really took over that surrogate dad role in my life.
That's pretty special.
It's something I'll never forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you talk about West Virginia. When you interview Rich Rod down in Tucson, you kind of got an affinity to talk to him because he's a West Virginia guy.
Yeah, he really is. You know, I played 4 years with Rich Rod at West Virginia.
Oh, he was on the team.
He was on the team. We came in the same class,
Wow.
4 years together. Man, what a tough guy he was too.
And then he eventually coached him.
Oh man, he to me should have never left.
Yeah,
should have never left. I'm sure he feels differently about that, but he was a legend there, and still is. He grew up there at West Virginia.
Yeah, I enjoy your conversations with him. So you went to West Virginia, and then in the '85 draft, the St. Louis Cardinals drafted you.
Yeah.
Our younger audience might not realize that, yes, there was a St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, I was actually there 3 years. They drafted me in the 4th round, 104th overall, just a weepy-eyed kid coming out of West Virginia. It was such a great day. It was such a great a moment in my life to finally get to the National Football League, and still had to make the team, of course, but what an experience that was.
Had that become a goal of yours when you were at West Virginia, to be in the NFL?
Yes, it was. I remember growing up, I wanted to be an NFL player. And I remember being 12 and saying, you know, I don't want to play in the NFL. And everyone does what to you? They pat you on the head and they say, oh, that's nice, Rod. You have no idea what you're saying, of course. You know, you're 12 years old and you want to play in the NFL. And I remember by the time I got to be about 14 or 15, I realized it was uncool to say that because it was so ridiculous a proposition. Even though my older brother, Craig, again, who was 5 years older than I was, got a scholarship to go play at Syracuse, I realized when I became a teenager that, you know what, the odds are ridiculous. It's ridiculous to talk about it. And little would I know that Craig would actually be drafted by the Steelers in 1980 and played 10 years for them, and then 2 more with the Minnesota Vikings.
Significant
So
career.
he really plowed the road, metaphorically speaking.
Classic big brother.
Exactly. You know, led the way and really inspired me, and he continues to inspire me to this day.
Yeah. So you went to that first camp and you made the team, obviously. You had a really good career with him. I mean, you made the Pro Bowl 4 times.
4 times. Yes, I did. Yeah,
Special teams.
Special teams, exactly. I played from scrimmages while I was a blocking fullback. Basically, people ask me, what position did you play? And sometimes I say jokingly, you know, I was cannon fodder. I got all the jobs nobody else wanted. And, you know, they'd line me up in a 3-point stance in the backfield with my feet at 5 yards. And they'd say, we want you, Ron, to run through the B gap, which is the guard tackle gap on the line of scrimmage. We want you to run through that at 100 miles an hour. And what they didn't tell you, Mayor, is there's going to be somebody lined up on the opposite side of the ball, and he's also going to be running into the B gap at 100 miles an hour.
From the defensive side.
Exactly, and the two shall meet. So it was very, very physical. I did play 10 years in the NFL. Shouldn't have been there 10 days.
It's a long career.
It really is. I was too small, too slow, too short, too everything, and yet somehow, some way, the Lord God allowed me to play 10 years.
A lot of heart.
In a league. And 7 years with the Cardinals organization, 3 in St. Louis, 4 here in Arizona. Then I went Plan B to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if you remember Plan B free agency.
I kind of do.
Kind of do. Basically what it meant was you were not Plan A. You were Plan B, period. And it's a long story. I won't bore your viewers. But ended up with the Cleveland Browns, played there for 2 years, and then sat out in 1994 with a bad back and didn't want to go out that way.
Right.
Didn't want to go out that way, so one team, 2 hours before training camp actually opened, one team called my agent and said, hey, listen, we'll take Ron as our 80th man on the roster. You were only allowed 80 guys in training camp at the time. Mm-hmm. And that meant, of course, I was going to be the first guy that was going to be cut. In 1995, it was the St. Louis Rams. They called my agent. It was almost a mercy signing. And I made that team. Mayor. I made that team in 1995, coming off that year where I sat out. And to me, I can tell you, I went to the Pro Bowl 4 times, and all the years that I had played prior to 1995 didn't mean as much to me personally as being able to say goodbye to the game on my terms in 1995, making that team.
Instead of walking after
Exactly right. Exactly.
Wow. You're the only guy that's played for both the St. Louis Cardinals and the Arizona Cardinals, but also St. Louis Cardinals and the St. Louis Rams?
Yes, exactly. Actually, the only player to play for both St. Louis franchises, that being the Cardinals and the Rams. So if you're ever on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and they ask you final answer, you can say final answer.
Ron Wolfley.
Doubt that's going to happen though, right?
It might. I don't know. But
so what about you, Mayor? Because I know this is your show right here.
It is.
All right. But as you know, I'm a talk show host. This is kind of what I do right here, right?
Yes.
On radio, of course, different medium here. But did you ever play? Growing up, what sports did you play?
I played a little in high school.
A little in high school?
Not very much.
Okay, what did you play, though? Were you ping pong? Were you good at ping pong?
I was not good at
Were you on the golf team? What were you?
I liked all the sports. I wasn't that big of a person in high school playing them. I kind of played a lot after I got out of high school. I liked football, not tackle, flag.
All right.
I liked basketball.
Okay.
I liked baseball.
Were you on the debate team?
I was not. I was a class president, so now I'm the mayor.
Okay, you were a class president. Interesting. Yes. Okay, that seems to be a fitting role for somebody that's going to get into politics.
Yeah, but I love sports, and I enjoy it. Played a lot of recreation. Nothing like what you're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Only like you say, only a few people moved to the level you guys have. I want to ask you though about you had that blocking back position. Who are some of the backs you were blocking for back then?
Wow. Okay. When I came in 1985, it was O.J. Anderson.
Yeah.
O.J. Anderson, right? Great football player. Stump Mitchell, as well, was a guy that I was blocking for. I'm trying to think of some of the other notable players. Visek Ahima would be a guy that a lot of people around here recognize from Mesa. I blocked for Kevin Mack in Cleveland. Blocked for Tommy Vardell in Cleveland, blocked for Eric Metcalf in Cleveland, blocked for Jerome Bettis.
Wow.
Jerome Bettis in St. Louis. Yeah, the bus. So, yeah, I was the guy they stuck in front of the guy they were paying all the money to.
You did the heavy lifting.
And I loved it too. I really did. The physicality of the game is something that I loved. And it's one of the reasons why I believe, Mayor, that football players are born. You have an affinity for it, the physicality of it. And as I say all the time, once you walk off the field, outside those white lines, you love people, you respect people, and you treat them better than yourself. It doesn't get any better as a man to act like an unmitigated savage and then walk outside that paradigm and love people.
I'm going to reintroduce the show. I'll be right back at you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Mayor Jay Tibshraeny. You're watching Chandler Inside Now. Today I'm in studio with Ron Wolfley, who I'm interviewing, but he was also interviewing me for a bit, too. Thanks for being here.
That's not going to end either, Mayor.
That's good. So I wanted to finish up. 4 Pro Bowls is pretty good stuff, but the special teams has changed. They limit, it's because of injuries, they limit the way you do things on the kickoffs now. Versus when you were playing. They let you guys just 100 miles an hour and boom.
Absolutely. And again, I loved every second of it. I really did. The truth will set you free, and so will covering a kickoff. You just run down the field as fast as you possibly can and bury your head into a man the size of Saturn's third moon. That is a rush.
Yeah.
And they used to be able to, Mayor, back when I was playing, they used to be able to actually line up 4 guys in what they called the wedge. 4 300-pounders would line up in front of the guy that was receiving the kickoff, right? He'd take the ball. They'd put these guys about 15 yards in front of them, 4 huge individuals. Well, somebody had to go into that wedge. Somebody had to take 2 of those guys out.
From the kicking team.
From the kicking team. And that was the job that I got. Wow. They'd line you up on the hash marks, running down the middle of the field. And those hash marks, we used to call them the train tracks, the railroad tracks. because you knew a train wreck was coming
Right.
down the middle of the field. And if you ever, by the way, if you ever want to, break up a wedge, if you happen to be out on a football field, Mayor, I don't know, maybe you're still playing some
Maybe one of the
flag
council
football.
meetings we might have to do it.
Right. Exactly right. The way you do that, you run down the field as fast as you can. You stare at one guy in the wedge the whole time. Never take your eyes off that guy.
Yeah.
And when you get about 3 yards away, hit that guy.
Yeah.
Hit the guy you're not looking at. You'll destroy
Wow.
him, and you'll block yourself. So, yeah, there's a little tip for you.
Yeah. No,
If you ever want to, you never know.
They don't let them do the 4 anymore, do they?
No, actually, that's a great point. No, they only allow 2, but you only got 2 anyways.
Yeah.
You only got 2 of those guys anyways,
Right.
for the most part.
Wow.
There have been some. I think maybe I did it once in my career where I got 3. I tripped up the 3rd guy. There have been some guys that I've seen get 3, but rarely would that ever happen.
Did you have a lot of injuries?
You know what's amazing about it? I've never had surgery.
It is amazing.
I've never broken a bone, not even in my hand.
Good genes.
Had an awful lot of concussions, though.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. We didn't even call them concussions back then, Mayor. We didn't even call them that. We just called it, he got dinged.
Yeah.
You know, how many times you'd see stars, and not every hit, not every hit is a concussion. It isn't. But there were a lot of times where, it was just part of the game. You just knew you were a little woozy, and a lot of times they'd bring you over to the sideline and they'd throw some water on your face and they'd give you the smelling salts and stuff like that. And you felt better and you went back out there and you played. That's what you did. It was part of the game.
So what do you think now with all the concussion protocols? Because right now there's a very regulated process if somebody gets hit on the head. And I mean, what's your take on that?
It's so needed. The NFL, I think, is doing the right thing right here. They have changed the rules of the game that have really changed the essence of the game. And that's a gutsy thing to do, because when they were making these rule changes at the time, all the way back, I'd say to 2005, 2006, just off the top of my head, where they started trying to mitigate the helmet-to-helmet contact, and the concussion protocol, of course, came later on, but they've implemented that. Just going back to it, it was something I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. How are you defenseless receiver? What are you talking about? Defenseless player. Hey, listen, when I played back in 1985 to 95, Mayor, you walked in between those white lines and you were not your brother's keeper. You were not. How I hit you, how I contacted you was not my responsibility. It was your responsibility to see me. The only thing I couldn't do is fall on the back of your legs for clipping, right? But the rules have changed, and they've changed because chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, is real. And the NFL knows it's got a problem, and it's got to do something about it. So they're trying to remove the head from the equation. It's not a safe game. It's never going to be a safe game, but you got to try to make it safer, and that's what they're doing.
Good observation. That's good to hear that, because I know that's a big deal now, especially with all the media surrounding it. So your career ended, and now we all know you as the radio co-host, the color analyst for the Cardinal. How did you get into that? Because you went from being this professional athlete to a whole new career. And I know there's different ways to get there. How did it work for you?
Do you know who Jude LaCava is?
Yes.
Blame Jude.
Okay. Channel 10.
Yeah, Channel 10, exactly, right? Blame Jude. Look, throughout my career as an NFL player, and this was in all 3 places. This was here. It was in St. Louis. It was in Cleveland as well. But for whatever reason, I was verbose. Articulate, some would say.
Yes.
Okay. More cerebral, some would say. And because of that, the press, the media, considered me to be a good quote. So they would come up to me and they would constantly ask me questions and things of that nature. And I kind of enjoyed that. And suddenly, Jude LaCava, when I got here, Jude said, hey, Ron, you know what? You ought to come in and do a weekly radio show with me. And that's what I started doing. And man, I got bit, especially with the medium of radio.
Because he had a radio show before it was TV.
Absolutely right. Okay. Yes, on old 620 KTAR, right?
Right.
And I kind of got bit and really liked it. And Jude is always, he's been a mentor in my life, and he's helped me actually launch my career here in Phoenix. It was because of Jude, and I owe him a lot. He's a great friend of mine, but I love the medium. I love the medium because it's the medium of thought, the medium of ideas. You can expound, right? And TV is more boom, 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 get to the point. Kind of like I haven't done this entire show.
No, you have, actually. So when did you become the color analyst for the Cardinals broadcast?
Yeah, that was 11 years ago. I'm going on my 12th year coming up this season, Lord willing. My 12th year. Dave Pasch is the incredibly talented play-by-play voice for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm the color analyst, of course. So we'll be going into our 12th year, and what a ride it's truly been. Yeah. And that, I got to tell you, too, that is, I love my job as a radio host. I love talking about sports, obviously. I love talking about games that are going to happen. I love talking about games that have happened. But there's something about actually putting a headset on there and actually calling a game that is happening right now. And it just gets the competitive juices flowing. And when I put those headsets on for the Cardinal games and we start calling a game that is live, a game that is happening right now, I don't look like this anymore. I'm not fat and 53. I'm 24 with 8% body fat when those headset goes on and I start talking about the game that I love, this passion that I have for the game of football. I'm 24 again, and I remember all of those feelings. It's such a gift. I'm so thankful that I get to actually do that, talk about this game that I love so much.
Yeah, we appreciate that energy, too. I enjoy listening. You know, if I'm not watching TV, I got my radio and my headphones on listening to you guys broadcast it. And you bring a different perspective to it, and a good one. Thank you for that, too.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Do you do a lot of work to get ready for a broadcast?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's knowledge involved. You build that knowledge up, but you do a little research prior, maybe?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The Arizona Cardinals are nice enough to send me over the coaches' film, so I actually get to see what the coaches see, the sideline and the end zone. Now, they get a lot more out of it than even I will get out of it, of course, and I certainly don't have time to watch it as much as they do. But I love it. Film is a great thing to be able to engage. When you can no longer do it, you can at least get up close. They have the tight end zone shot. You can see these guys in the trenches doing battle. It's a great thing. It really is.
Yeah.
A lot of preparation, though.
So I want to spend a few minutes talking about, we got about 5 minutes left, talking about the Cardinals. They've kind of had a nice renaissance the last couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting because, you know, we talked about hockey before we got here. When you have a team that really looks exciting and is winning, that galvanizes those fans. So they're on a roll here. I mean, they're a legitimate contender for a Super Bowl, I would think. They got a window here.
Yeah, it really is.
What do you think, as you talk about that, maybe I know they've made some trades as we're taping for Chandler Jones. What do you think they need to do in the draft?
Well, let me start with a brand metamorphosis that this organization has gone through, because it really has. You know, Michael Bidwill has done an incredible job taking over. And this is how it works, by the way, in the National Football League as an owner, really in any professional sports league. You take over and you start hiring and firing guys. If it works, those particular firings and hirings, if it works, the owner gets credit. Michael Bidwill has done just that. He let go of Ken Wisenhunt, somebody I would not have fired at the time. And I said that as much. Yet he knew something was wrong. He knew better than most. Fired Ken Wisenhunt, fired Rod Graves, who was a family friend. That was very difficult. I know that it was. And then he hired Steve Keim, and he hired Bruce Arians. And that combination, that trifecta right there, Michael Bidwill, Steve Keim, and Bruce Arians, has totally changed the entire dynamic. And there were other moves that were made in the front office as well. So they've gone through this incredible brand metamorphosis, and Michael Bidwill deserves an awful lot of that credit.
Yes.
On the field, Steve Keim and Bruce Arians have totally turned it around. This is a team that should compete for a Super Bowl. That's going to be the narrative. Going into 2016, it's going to be, this is a Super Bowl caliber team, especially with Chandler Jones now coming off the edge. The signing of Evan Mathis, really shoring up the interior offensive line. I think they're going to draft a center, Mayor.
Okay.
That's what I think they're going to do, to answer your question in a very circuitous kind of way.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's exciting because they won, 13 games. The expectation level is, it's off the charts.
Absolutely. 10 games, 11 games, and then 13 games, plus a playoff victory last year. They won 14 games. They got to the NFC Championship game. We all know what happened in that game. A huge disappointment. Going into 2016, the narrative, and it makes me nervous because I'm worried about people overlooking the regular season, but it's going to be Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, it's exciting. And they have a quarterback. It's a quarterback's league, and they have a window with Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
This is the time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're pushing all their chips into the center of the table right now. And where that is going to end, I don't know, but I can tell you right now, it's got everyone excited.
Yeah, great. Well, I'd like to go on, but I told you this show would go quick. I appreciate you coming out and sharing those thoughts with our audience. It's nice to have you in studio.
No, Mayor, I really appreciate the invitation, and maybe we'll do it again.
I'll let you do more of the interviewing next time.
I would love that.
You make a living doing that.
We want to know, Mayor. Answer the question.
There's that voice. All right. Thanks, Ron. I'm Mayor Jay Tibshraeny. You've been watching Chandler Inside and Out today. Thanks for joining us. Until we see you again, take care and be safe.